والهجرة الانتقال من بلد الشرك إلى بلد الإسلام. والهجرة فريضة على هذه الأمة من بلد الشرك إلى بلد الإسلام، وهي باقية إلى أن تقوم الساعة. والدليل قوله تعالى: إن الذين توفاهم الملائكة ظالمي أنفسهم قالوا فيم كنتم؟ قالوا كنا مستضعفين في الأرض. قالوا ألم تكن أرض الله واسعة فتهاجروا فيها فأولئك مأواهم جهنم وساءت مصيرا. إلا المستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان لا يستطيعون حيلة ولا يهتدون سبيلا، فأولئك عسى الله أن يعفو عنهم، وكان الله عفوا غفورا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another video. There was a sister who commented on one of my Yemen experience videos who has been living in the Middle East for 20 years. And she asked me to touch on the subject of renewing your niyyah, or I guess ways to renew your intentions, for hijrah when you are abroad. And she also mentioned that she knows people who have also been over in the Middle East for 20 years, maybe 20 plus years, and they have decided to go back for varying reasons. Some, their children had to go, or they want to send them to university there. And most likely those children were raised here, probably were born in the Middle East if they were here for 20 years. Some of them didn't exist when the parents came. So, I'm going to just give my advice and my thoughts on, renewing your intentions, ways to do it. And by her comment, as I expressed to her, by her question, she answered questions that I had about myself and, the reasons why I was basically forced to go back to the United States after every trip overseas. I was speculating, of course, and the conclusions I came to were things like, maybe perhaps, especially the last time I was there, after I came back from Saudi, I was there for 6 years. It felt like a prison sentence, and that was the longest I had ever been back in the United States since I've been going overseas. So that was my conclusion was, okay, so since this is the longest length of time, then perhaps this is it. This is the one. Inshallah, I'm not gonna come back. But with her question and her information about people leaving that have been for 20 years and they made their intention for hijrah, but then going back to the States or England or Canada, I don't know. She did mention the States. I guess, I guess she answered my question to my own affair and gave me more clarity on why I went back. Each time it was a necessity, it was basically forced. From Yemen, I was with my ex-husband. We got deported. Egypt, when I went to Egypt the second time in 2007, there was some fraud on my bank account for several months. I mean, these hackers were taking money. They had gotten my card information online because I had my bank card with me, and they were taking money out of my bank account every single day, and I didn't even know. I had no clue until it was like too late. Money was disappearing. They stole a few $1,000s from me, and that's very difficult. A few $1,000s is a lot when you're trying to stay overseas. So anyways, so that happened in Egypt. Had to go back and straighten that out. And what was the other thing? Oh, Saudi. I had gotten sick. Well, my illness had become exasperated due to the amount of children that they gave me to teach in my international school. They gave me about 500 students. The first year was 250 students. The second year was 500 students in total that I had to teach, which made me extremely ill. So I had to end the contract and leave. So, each time I went back to the United States, there was a reason. And in addition to the reasons, each time I went back, I faced something that I didn't know I needed to face. Discovering things that I didn't know I needed to discover in your own personal self and your family members. Conclusions that you need to come to that will be a nuisance for you later, or eventually be an issue later on in life if you don't deal with them now. So there were several things that I had to face each time I went back, and for good reason. It needed to be faced, it needed to be dealt with. And the more I went back, each time two things happened. A love and a determination to get back overseas and stay over there was created in me. And the second thing was looking at the reality of where I came from, the country and what was going on, my children having to go to school there, and them being faced with certain, things that they were sheltered from before. It increased a disdain and hatred for, disbelief and in its lands, due to what it produces. So I guess to answer the question, or to give my advice, is that a person who had left a long time ago to come to the Muslim lands, renewing your niyyah, what will help you renew your niyyah for hijrah, on the one to make a determination to stay, is to look back. Look at where you came from. Look at the news. Look at what's going on. Talk to your family members. Talk to ex-schoolmates or whoever. Whatever you have to do to remind yourself of why you left is what's going to help you remain overseas by Allah's permission. But that's if you had hatred for disbelieving lands in the first place. Only hatred for it will keep you out. If it was just, oh yeah, I would like my child, I would like to live in an Islamic environment, or if you went overseas to study and you completed your studies, now you want to go back after 20 years, you spent 20 years studying, and then trying to make it work overseas, and then you have to go back, or you decided, yeah, I think I need to go back. And in addition, your children have been raised around people who perhaps, no, not perhaps, I'm almost positive, have shown America in a positive light. And if they were born overseas, they're curious about where they came from. And these people are praising where I came from, or I'm always seeing my country in a positive light. So the parents tend to forget what happened. And, when they were there and what made them leave. So you go back, or Shaitan makes it fair seeming to you, when the Muslim world is actually, very well furnished with, very well supplied with universities, I'll say. And everyone's preference for education, of course, is different. But it seems as if a person has been overseas for 20 years, that's his test, deciding to go back and being faced with what he's going to be faced with his children, with his own self or her own self. And many stories that I've heard, individuals who are like this, who spent a lot of time overseas, they actually regret it, and they ardently want to return. They want to return back to the Muslim lands because they see the reality, and times are worse than what they were when you first left. So I would say that a person has to remember why they left the lands of the non-Muslims and why they came to the lands of the Muslims. And you have to look at that, review those reasons, go over them, repetition. I was just also sharing with the sister that here in the UAE, the Emiratis, they shared with my husband that you have to leave. They leave out sometimes. They go to places that are less fortunate so that they will remember the ni'mah that they're living in. So it's really up to the person. Everyone's journey is different, and people learn differently. And if you went overseas to study and then decided to stay, yeah, you maybe need a stronger reason not to return back. So them going back will probably make that determination in them, and then they'll be reminded. They may have to go through a lot of hardship, for them to come to that conclusion. And the other thing is, if Allah turned their hearts away and the non-Muslim lands are looking more promising than the Muslim lands, then there's nothing anyone can do about that. And those are for several reasons. You have individuals who, the whole entire time they were overseas, they spoke bad about the Muslims. They looked down at them. They compared them to the West. They belittled them. They sneered at them while existing in their countries and taking their salaries. So Allah removed that from you, which is sad. And sometimes some ni'am, when they're taken, they're not given back, depending on how tremendous the violation was. And kufr al-ni'am, the disbelief that a person committed with the blessing that Allah had given them, and also by not thanking Allah for allowing them to be in their position. You have to revisit, look back. Let your children see it. Speak bad about that place. Tell them the realities of what's going on there so that they won't want to go. Or you could take them on a trip. not move back. Take them on a trip. If they got American citizenship, they're Americans, but born overseas, take them on a trip. Take them to, show them the news. Let them meet your family members. Maybe the unfavorable ones. So they'll see, that might not scare them enough. I don't know. It depends on what you did in the house. What kind of cultivation you gave them. So that's my advice as relates to renewal. Renewing your intention. Got to be revisited. Got to know why you left and why you came. And don't forget it by any means necessary. It's sad. It's sad that some people have to learn that way. But like I said, other people, they have unfinished business that they have to take care of, and they have to actually go back. And then inshallah, them going back, they will realize what they had. They'll get their affairs in order, face whatever they needed to face and take care of, and then they'll make their way back. They'll beg Allah. Perhaps Allah will create in them a strong desire to go back, come back to the Muslim lands, and hopefully they won't make that decision again. And also, the children may need that example. They need that experience so that they, for themselves, can make the decision to want to stay overseas. I want to point out some of the dangers. The dangers in going back after you have bore and raised your children in the Muslim countries. They have a lot of innocence, naivety with them due to, of course, being with the Muslims. Certain things they don't have to know. They're not exposed to certain things, certain ideas. So when you talk to them about university, maybe the parents forgot, or maybe they don't care, I don't know, or maybe they don't see it as a big deal, or maybe they see it as a benefit. When they go to the university, the children have to take a level of psychology, a level of theology, and many times you either have an unbiased Christian who confuses the students, as a professor, or atheist professor who tries to use trickery to brainwash his pupils, the students. And unfortunately, this happens all so often. Even those children who they weren't raised overseas, but they were raised in Muslim communities and went to Islamic schools until high school, and then when they entered college, they took on feminist ideas. For the men, they took on liberal ideas. They started to have doubt in their religion because they were never prepped nor prepared to combat the ideologies that come along with living in the West. When I was there, I felt as if something was being snatched from me every day. As if I was trying to hold on to something and someone was trying to take something from me. That's how I felt. And that's the case. Your religion is being snatched from you daily. That's the whole point of the West. Secularism. Put religion last and put philosophy and logic first. So if you want to help your children, help give them some armor, start warning them before they go to college. First and foremost, you equip yourself with knowledge and understand or condemn it if you see anything wrong with it. Again, it goes back to the individual. What you are upon religiously, what you're upon intellectually, what ideas you lean towards. If you are philosophical, you are never going to warn against philosophy and rhetoric. Okay, if you mix philosophy, rhetoric with your religion, you will never warn your kids about that because you don't see anything wrong with it. But those ideologies, those effects, is what causes your children to go astray. The very things you sheltered them from, the ideologies that they will be pumped with and be faced with, are the root causes of why people do what they do in the West. There's no action except that there's an ideology behind it. There's a reasoning behind it. So, like I said, it goes back to the person. Those people who are not upon rhetoric and philosophy, and you try your best to be upon Kitab and Sunnah, then you have to arm yourself with knowledge. Look at the kuffar deeper than what their actions are. The drinking and the smoke, the partying and the zina and all that stuff that they do. And arm yourself with the why. What's the ideologies? If you don't have the ability to do it, then I don't know what to tell you. Make dua for your children. But that is something that it should be first and foremost, along with their Islamic knowledge. It should be warning against the beliefs and ideologies of the non-Muslims outside of religious beliefs, because that's not what's going to get the children. They're Muslim already. They're not. They're not going to believe that Jesus is God, and they're not going to believe all that stuff because they're just not coming from by the permission of Allah, coming from Islamic environments. They're not. However, the hidden and subtle assault is going to be overwhelming, and they don't have any armor. They don't have any fight against that. The whole time I was back in the States, those 6 years, that's what I focused on. I was, of course, on a plight to understand myself and try to rid myself of certain thoughts. And I wanted to know what was the origins of those thoughts. Why are you inclined towards certain things? Why is your thinking a certain way? Once you figure that out, how you figure that out is studying the kuffar. You can just look at anything. Look at anything. Listen to the words that they say. It's conflictual with the religion. What we're supposed to be upon, from manners and etiquettes and husnul dhan, having good opinions and being certain about the text, revelation, having certainty in it. There are people of doubts, and their speech is filled with doubts and opinions of men. So you have to, if you're on a quest of really trying to practice Islam to the fullest, not just the physical, the garments, the prayers, fasting, Hajj, the mechanical parts of the religion. You also have to do the mental part of it, the mental and the soul purging, the cleansing of the heart and the soul. Hijrah is also hijrah from actions. It's not just a physical concept, moving from one land to another. Hijrah from beliefs, hijrah from habits, hijrah from people. Very important. So that's what I have to say. It's deeper than what meets the eye. I am a person, like I said, who has been working on myself, trying to analyze myself, where I come from, so that I can be better. So when someone asks me something, I'm going to take you down the road of how I think and the conclusions I've come to based off of what I've learned. And each individual is different. I cannot give you necessarily what I have, because in conclusions that I've come to, other people are not necessarily going to come to them due to some individuals being on different methodologies and belief systems, even as Muslims. So if you have a different methodology, different belief system, different habits, because of your ideologies, then this is going to be the cause of many pitfalls that you face in your decision making and in your life. May Allah help us all. So that's what I have to say about it. And yeah, renew your intentions all the time, and do your best. Ask Allah to help you and guide you to what pleases Him, and knowledge of Him, and the correct methodology to worship Him and follow His messenger with sincerity. It's all a package. It comes all together. All right, see you all in the next video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ma'as salama.